And he was teaching them, saying to them, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations,' but you have made it a den of robbers." As Jesus began the week on which he would be crucified, what was he thinking about? The Gospels tell us very clearly what was on his heart and mind. On Monday of that week, as he entered into Herod's magnificent and massive temple complex, he saw something that absolutely horrified him. In the very place that was set apart for the nations to come and worship God, there was animal dung. There were oxen lowing. There were sheep bleating. There were pigeons cooing. There were coins clinking. There were men and women arguing over the prices of sacrificial animals. What was supposed to be a holy place of solemn worship for the nations to come to looked and smelled and even sounded like a petting zoo. Jesus could not believe his eyes. And so he did what no one would have ever dared do in that situation. He started flipping over tables. He started chasing people out of the temple. If it was loud beforehand, now it was absolute chaos. There were animals breaking loose and running free through the temple. There were people scrambling to pick up their money off of the ground. Others were shouting and running for it. And above all the commotion, the voice of Jesus Christ could be clearly heard declaring, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations." As Jesus began the week on which he would be crucified, what was on his heart and mind was the nations. Jesus wants room and reverence in the temple for the Elamites and the Parthians and the Medes and the Persians and the Greeks and Egyptians and Romans, for all nations to come and gather and worship God. He's so concerned about the nations being brought in to worship God that he's driving his own nation out. And Jesus goes even further than flipping over tables for the sake of the nations. Jesus goes and dies on a cross for the sake of the nations, so that by his blood, he may bring in people from every tribe and tongue and nation to gather together to worship the one true living God in his new house of prayer, in the new temple that he's building, his church. So as we begin this week on which we celebrate his crucifixion and resurrection, let us have the same heart and mind as Jesus. Because the good news of Easter is for all nations. So this week, let's pray and give and go and lay down our lives for the sake of the nations. And let's not give up until the day when the redeemed from every tribe and tongue are brought into God's holy house of prayer by faith in Jesus Christ.